Hello and welcome to Read Brave, a community-built comics podcast. From the Graphomania Podcast Network, I'm Vinton Bain. This week, it's just me. And I'm going to go through my hosting stuff quickly because I had the chance to talk with Eisner Award-winning comic creator Ramón Pérez, who just finished the Nova series for Marvel, endeared himself to me with Jim Henson's Tale of Sand, and will be doing the art for the upcoming Spider-Man Generations title. So, let's get to it. There are a few comics I still haven't got the chance to read this week, but here are some of the highlights from what I did read. I read Nova number 7, which is the final issue of the series. It follows Richard Rider returning, like I've mentioned before in the podcast, bringing back the Cancerverse and all these things from the Annihilation time during Marvel that I love so much. This has been such a fun series with such amazing artwork. I love it. It's so beautiful. You should read it. I'm so glad that we're going to have this collected series, even though it did end and I wish it would have continued. I can now get this as a collection and just give it to someone and be like, read this. It's great. It's fun. You'll love it. Well, I guess you probably need to read Annihilation to really fully love it, but maybe not. I don't know. I really love Annihilation. Maybe you can love it without it. I am sad that this is ending. It was a lot of fun. The writing, the art, the nostalgia for the return of Richard Rider, and my love for Sam Alexander. It was the perfect storm for my love, and it ended very well, but I wish it would not have had to end. And I hope that they come back at some point to do something else with Nova. I hope that that same team gets to work on Nova in the future, at least in some aspect, maybe on Champions or something where he's involved. I think it would be a lot of fun. I also read The Unstoppable Wasp number 6. And this is it. This is the moment we were waiting for. This is where the GIRL team comes together to outsmart the Red Room. And it's fantastic. I really love to see this team of really smart girls assembled to work together as superheroes using their brains and not their brawn. Plus, it was a nice hand from Mr. MODOK, as Nadia likes to call him. So that's Daredevil. Mr. Murdoch would be the proper way, but I really appreciate that she keeps calling him Mr. MODOK. It's fantastic. That book is so charming. That is the best word I can find for it. I also read Spider-Man number 17. That's the Miles Morales run, and it's getting really intense. Last issue, he beat up a whole bar full of people I mentioned. This issue, he's out for blood for Hammerhead and something that he did. And it's really great just to see Miles Morales letting loose and just seeing the extreme that his powers can take him to, but also losing his cool and trying to grapple with how he can still be a superhero when getting so angry and wanting vengeance so badly. I guess he could be an Avenger. Huh. How about that? I also read Iceman number 1. This is the new title from Sina Grace, following Iceman, the older Iceman, the current Iceman, not the time-displaced Iceman. It's X-Men. It's very confusing. I did like that we got to see the current Bobby interacting with his time-displaced self, training him and joking with him. And then we got to see more about him coming out and how that affects him and his family that he already has had problems with in the past in comics. They don't understand his mutantness. And that was almost an imagery in times, especially in the X-Men movies, for coming out, being mutant. Have you ever tried not being a mutant? And so it's interesting to see both those things at play at once. Although he doesn't actually tell his parents in this issue, slight spoiler there, he does have to deal with that fact, and he does have to deal with wanting to tell them and the things that they're saying and how he can't tell them. It's really interesting. I think this series is going to really dive deep into some character study, and I really appreciate that when it comes to my X-Men books. I did continue on with Amazing Spider-Man number 28. Everyone knew I wasn't going to jump off of that series. I can't stop Spider-Man. I wasn't appreciating the way that they were taking that title and how it was becoming this big war in this country. And it's like, this isn't really what Spider-Man's about for me. But this issue was decidedly better than the last issue. There was a fight with Norman Osborn that, slight spoilers, was powerless. So neither of them had any powers. They were just hand-to-hand combat. And seeing Parker's passion in that fight, where he just like goes all out, throws him through a window, is ready to die, fighting Norman Osborn for the things that Osborn has done. It was so beautiful just to see him pouring his passion out and seeing that it isn't the spider powers that make Spider-Man who he is as a superhero. And I think that's true for all the superheroes that we really love, that it's something more than their powers. It's not just their powers that make them a hero. Otherwise they wouldn't be a superhero. Maybe that's it. Maybe they wouldn't be super if it wasn't for who they were character-wise. I don't know. It's interesting. I guess I do like some other heroes who aren't quite as superheroed. and no one would ever call them superheroes, anti-heroes, and that type of thing. But that's a discussion for a different day. This issue was really good. I'm a little bit torn because I don't want more of the same in Spider-Man, because it does get old after, 60, because it does get old, after so many years of the same thing over and over again. But I didn't like what they were doing here. The newness that I want aren't international conflicts and armies in my Spider books. I'm hard to please, I suppose. So I have faith that somebody will figure out how to write Spider-Man just to please me, but I'm still sticking with the fact that I think Dan Slott is kind of past his prime on Spider-Man. I'm ready for some new blood to come in and work on the title. I do like Slott. I do think he's won me over on many things that I doubted him on, but I always like new blood on things unless I'm super obsessed with the person that's creating it. On the non-Marvel side of things, I read Extremity #4, and I've talked a lot about this one. I'm going to talk a little bit about it in the upcoming interview, but it's such a great series. The emotional stakes really went to 11 in this issue. It's a lot about vengeance, about a family that had, or a tribe that had a lot of things taken from them, trying to get vengeance on the people that took that from them. And in this book, there's this robot named Shiloh. He's definitely my favorite character. He just keeps standing out ever since he showed up. He's like this cool robotic samurai warrior, and that's my love language, I think. I like it. I like it a lot. I also read Batman #24, and this is probably my issue of the week. This one is so good. Of course, Tom King has been killing it on the writing. The past issue was amazing, and he's just been doing a really stellar job as we built up. I know I've talked a lot about it on the podcast, but he really did it again here. I love the dialogue between Gotham Girl and Batman. It was so phenomenal, the way that the art was paired with that discussion that they had. It kept doing this weird zoom around thing, and the panels would just slightly alter the way you were seeing something, and it was so beautiful. Such perfect layout and great discussion on why be a superhero. Just because you have powers doesn't mean you have to be a superhero, and why does Batman decide to be Batman? And it's so fantastic. There's a line where he says, "I'm Batman because I'm Batman, not because I want to be Batman." It's so good. And then, of course, there's a huge reveal at the end that I won't spoil, even though it's been spoiled all over the internet everywhere. And it was spoiled for me before I read it, but I don't care much about spoilers, but I know some of you might. So before we go to our segment, did you guys catch that 9 minutes of gameplay for the new Spider-Man game that came out of E3 this week? Man, that was a lot of fun. I love Spider-Man games, and this looks so great. Plus, there was a Miles Morales teaser at the end, so that's going to give me bonus points for loving anything. If you haven't seen it yet, go on the YouTube and it'll be up there. It's just a 9-minute footage run through of the new Spider-Man game. My only thing I'm really upset about is it doesn't come out till 2018. We've already been waiting quite a while since they announced this game. So any day now. Also coming in 2018 that we got a teaser for, the Black Panther film. And it actually pushed The Force Awakens off its pedestal for the most watched teaser in 24 hours. So that's pretty fantastic. It just shows how much everybody wants this film, and I'm right there in it. I loved this teaser. It was so beautiful. I could not be more excited. So with that, we are at segment time finally. Here is my interview with Ramón Pérez. So we're here today with award-winning comics creator Ramón Pérez, artist and co-author on the just finished Nova series for Marvel, and artist on the upcoming Spider-Man Generations title, The Spiders. Welcome and thank you for being with us.
How you doing?
So we'll open with a typical question and hopefully get more original from there. First of all, how did you get into making comics?
I mean, I guess, like, would you mean professionally, or would you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Sure.
Professionally just seemed like a natural journey. I was doing it for myself quite often when I was younger. I was doing, in grade school, I did kind of my own Sunday Funny comic strips with my own characters. And then in high school, I did which kind of into an online comic years later that I did. And just professionally seemed like a natural progression way to go. I did some graphic novels for some indie publishers, game publishers. Would try to poke my head into the Marvel and DC world from time to time, to no avail for the most part. I was either too cartoony for Marvel or not well established enough too cartoony enough for DC, but not well established enough for Marvel. So, despite having a few bites here and there, it wasn't until I did Tale of Sand where a company kind of took a chance on me with that project and allowed me kind of just free reign to do whatever I wanted. And that with the Eisners one from that book, it just kind of opened up a lot of doors for me on the professional front. Because prior to that, I would always balance out my work with a lot of advertising work, graphic design, children's books, a wide variety of stuff. I've been freelancing pretty much my entire career.
Sure.
There was always an avenue to produce art to make a living, kind of thing.
Yeah. Actually, it was Jim Henson's Tale of Sand that introduced me to your work. I've always been a huge Jim Henson fan, and when I heard that was coming out, I pre-ordered it and got a hold of it as quick as possible. Nice. So that's when I really found out who you were as an artist. And of course, I'm a big Marvel fanboy, so then you started doing a lot with Marvel in more recent years, and I really fell in love with all of that stuff: Wolverine, the X-Men, the Spider-Man work, and then this latest Nova series. So it seems like you do a lot of work with Marvel. How did you fall into, I mean, you kind of mentioned that they just saw your Eisner and the work you did on Tale of Sand, but what was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, my first job for, actually right after Tale of Sand was actually John Carter, Gods of Mars for Marvel. And that was done through Son Amanat, who was kind of the editing all the kind of book-related fiction at the time, and she's moved on through the hierarchy of Marvel since, but at the time she was in need of an artist to kind of come in and take care of this adaptation for it. And because of the source material, she was also friends with my editor on Tale of Sand, so you kind of introduced to her, and it kind of just felt like a natural next step. A very high profile book, but it was a fun book in the sense that I knew the source material. I liked it. I was given free reign to kind of adapt in the Marvel style, along with Sam Humphries, who was doing the kind of written adaptation of it. And then basically after that, by the time that series was kind of wrapping up, the Eisners came out, and I was awarded the Eisners and stuff like that. So by the time that was kind of wrapping up, Marvel kind of being their stable already, some of the editors reached out Nick Lowe in particular reached out and wanted to work on the X book, and which was a flattering offer because I was a big fan of the series. And it kind of just naturally went from there. I've been quite lucky since then, working on pretty much a lot of their higher profile characters. Usually I do like a shorter run. I'm not a long haul kind of artist. I don't like doing 2 years on a book. Sure. It's not my, I mean, Hawkeye was the longest run I've ever done, and that was 11 issues. If it's my own series, that's a different story. I'm more invested in it. So, right. But I find with some of these other, like when you're on the ride with a company, they dictate where the book goes. You really can, poke and prod and push in certain directions, but at the end of the day, it's their character. So, being probably someone who created a lot of my own content before Marvel, it's something I prefer to have more control on where things go, and it just allows me to have more fun that way and invest myself a little bit more. So, which was actually what led to my progression to get onto Nova. Me talking to Marvel, saying, "Listen, I want to do something that I'm more invested in longer," and they're relaunching Nova, and I said I want to be in on plotting and writing, and so they paired me up with Jeff Loveness. Yeah, we hit it off nicely. We had similar ideas about the character. We came from different backgrounds, storytelling wise, so that was kind of a nice mashup in that regard. And so, unfortunately, the series got cut short. We had plotted out quite further, but c'est la vie.
Yeah, and that was going to be one of my questions, was if you had actually plotted out further, if you had planned that ending. So I knew it had gotten canceled, but I didn't know how much previous notice to that you had gotten. So
yeah, the book did get canceled a lot sooner, or ended a lot sooner than we had anticipated. We had plotted out much further, larger story arcs with the character. We did end the issue where it was like that, where we ended was actually an original arc ending of an arc. Yeah. We just kind of tailored the the last few pages to better fit a series end, if you will, rather than an arc end kind of thing. So, which is unfortunate, but at least we were able to actually tell at least a complete story and bring back Rich and have the two characters kind of meet and kind of set the standard for their relationship at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved this newer Nova series. I got back in the comics just before the Annihilation stuff happened at Marvel, and that stuff really pulled me back into Marvel especially, and it still means a lot to me today, and Richard Rider was one of my favorites. Seeing him return was just great, and I really loved the dialogue with him and the younger heroes early on in the series as a commentary to just how much the Marvel Universe has changed in the past decade.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was Jeff's flair coming through. Yeah, it was really, he did it quite well.
That's one of the things I was wanting to ask was, how did the writing break down there, the partnership between you and Loveness? Did one of you do more story and more scripting, or did you just take different parts of the story?
It actually varied per issue. It was very organic. We both came in on the plot, and we both plotted things out. With the first issue, I think I wrote about 5 pages or 4 pages. I can't recall exactly. And he took the heavy lifting on the first issue. But then the second issue, I think, was an even split scripting wise. Third issue, we did Marvel style, where I drew out the whole thing and he scripted afterwards. So it was like, so it kind of varied, whatever played to the strength of each issue kind of thing, you know, like it really just went to, we let the story dictate. The last couple of issues were more his, just because I had to step away. We had Scott Hepburn filling in, so I came in on the plot. But then I had to step away to finish up a graphic novel I was doing. So he did the heavy lifting on the actual scripting in those ones. So, you know, it pushed and pulled basically as the story needed, as the characters, what characters we spotlighted, what the situations were, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of partnerships, this isn't so much as a question as just me kind of fanning out a little bit. The art in this book was phenomenal, and your art with Ian Herring's colors just popped so well for me. I really want to see like more from that. This is one of my biggest disappointments, this thing that the series was ending. I was like, oh, I want more of them working together.
I mean, Ian and I often work together. He colored me partially on, he was the predominant colorist on Tale of Sand.
Right.
And he worked with me on Spider-Man Learning to Crawl. And did he work on the other one? He was with me on Hawkeye as well. So we worked together quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's in my studio, the Raid Studio up here in Toronto. And literally like sits like 10 feet over from me. So we have a few we have a few team ups happening every so often, because it's nice to actually look over each other's shoulders and kind of go in there and see the colors firsthand. And Ian's great. He's open to my suggestions and kind of vision. So I usually tend to come in with an idea of what I want on a series, and obviously he brings his strengths as well. And we kind of like mash up our idea and kind of create what we create. So I especially like to try to create a different visual voice for each series, and he's open to playing in that regard, which is great.
So you mentioned there that you work with the group known as Raid Studios. I really love that whole group. I watched that short documentary that you guys put out a while back. It's really inspiring. Can you tell our listeners just a little bit about that collective? Yeah,
sure. It's the Royal Academy of Illustration Design, which was started back in 2003 by Chip Zdarsky, Cameron Stewart, and a few other artists. And I came in about 2003. There was about 4 artists then. I replaced one of the Kagan McLeod, who Chip Zdarsky did Captara with. I kind of replaced him. He was moving out due to, family, having a family, basically. He'd just gotten married, had a kid on the way, had bought a house. So he felt he couldn't afford the separation of the time at the studio. So I kind of came in, and over the years, all the original members have left, and we've had great new members come in who've stayed permanently with us, like Francis Manopal, Marcus Toast, Scott Hepburn, Kalman Androsovsky, Nimit Malavia. We have great new up-and-comers like Irma Navilla, Gabe Sapienza, Ian Herring, like as I mentioned, Tanchi Zonjic, when he moved over to Canada from Croatia, joined our studio as well. Writer Anthony Falcone, who does a lot of indie books as well. And then we've had some bigger names like Ken Lashley and Paul Ravoche over the years, Kerry Nord, Carl Kerschel. So it's been a really great kind of hub for artists to come through. Some stay longer, some stay a little bit less, but it's a great space. We're about 14 strong now, and we it's just a nice little clubhouse we all go to create. And as the studio has grown, our objectives have changed as well. We're slowly moving into self-publishing as well. So this year will actually be our year. We'll be launching our first anthology later this year, and a few other projects. So it's a really kind of great place to go, because a lot of people in this industry tend to work at home, which I did for about a decade of my career.
Right.
And so it's actually nice to go somewhere, as I say, to put on pants and engage the outside world. Because working sometimes at home, you kind of tend to work in a vacuum after a while. Your social skills deteriorate, and you just end up venting and screaming on Twitter or the internet somewhere. Yeah. So it's actually nice to actually come in, and we're all friends. We all hang out, go to dinner, party, and just have a good time at the end of the day.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, so it's been great. I've been part of the studio now. I think this is my, I want to say 11th year, maybe, or 10th year. Yeah, maybe more actually, 12th year maybe, with the studio. And I kind of run the show now, just to making sure everybody has a roof over their head and pays their rent, so to speak. but it's been great. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, I jumped the gun a little bit. I meant to ask earlier, so I'm going to go back to Jim Henson's Tale of Sand. Were you previously a fan of Jim Henson before working on that project? Oh, for sure. I mean, I grew up. I mean, I was a heavy Muppets fan when I was a kid. Yeah. I had a lot of Muppets paraphernalia, like the books about them and the script book, actually, that I would often kind of read out as like, and do shows with, kind of thing. And I actually made a few of my own puppets early on. That's so cool. Yeah. So, I mean, I wasn't that familiar with his like Dark Crystal and Labyrinth till much later when I was in high school. But definitely as a younger kid, it was a Muppet Show, Sesame Street, and that stuff that really kind of enchanted me. And then as I grew older, I kind of learned of his larger body of work. And then when I was actually approached by Archaea and introduced to the Henson archivist, Karen Falk, and she sent me a bunch of DVDs of a lot of his independent projects, right? Like a Timepiece and it was called The Cube. Yeah, The Cube is my favorite film of all time. Yeah. I love it so much. Yeah, it's a bizarre one. And like a lot of these short films he did just for fun and practice, like college things he did, like played with animation and something that like some of it's available on the Henson YouTube or Vimeo. I can't remember where they have it offhand, but it actually introduced me to this whole other side I was completely unaware of. And having knowing written Tale of Sand just prior to or concurrently around the same time he was developing like Sesame Street and the Muppet Show. Interesting to see like him playing into different worlds, the world of the Muppets, and that sort of thing took off. His career kind of veered away from the more kind of art films of Tale of Sand and Timepiece, like and Cube for that matter, right? So it was interesting to learn, kind of see this the struggling artist, if you will, and see how kind of success can dictate your choices and your struggle and that sort of thing. So it was a really it was an honor to work on the project and work directly with his family and learn about him and visit the Henson lot and see like the puppets and all that great stuff. It was a truly, truly wonderful experience. That's so cool. Yeah, Jim Henson, like I mentioned, is one of my biggest influences in life. So anything he does was like gold to me. And looking back on it all, I have such great nostalgic feelings. So anyone that loves Jim Henson is like, yeah, you get 10 extra bonus points in my book. Especially if you know what Cube is, because no one does. I say my favorite movie is Cube, and they're like, oh, that horror movie. And I'm like, no, what they took the idea from for that horror movie. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So jumping back to your work on Marvel, I saw that you'll be on Spider-Man Generations with Bendis, and I saw some really cool promo art for that, and I'm really excited for that project. I know that it's pretty early, so you might not be able to say anything, but is there anything you can tell us about that? I really can't say anything. Okay. Other than that, basically Miles and Peter are both in the book. Sure. That's about as much as I can reveal, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, that's enough to sell me straight into it. So I love the work that you've done in the past on Spider-Man, on Learning the Crawl, that story, where you seem to lean pretty heavily into Steve Ditko's influence there with the art, which was so perfect for the story and the setting of that.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I try to like morph and change it up a little bit every time I work on a different project. Really try to feel out the kind of energy I want to convey or the visual. So yeah, with Learning to Cross this, we were obviously going back and kind of filling in the spaces between the gutters, if you will, for Peter's origin story, or kind of like how he became that kind of friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. It was actually kind of a nice way to go back and pay homage to Ditko and his work, especially since we're directly riffing on a lot of scenes, or creating the scenes that happened before and after something Ditko had drawn himself. So it was a really great exploration and way to play with the art style as well, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one of the next things I had written down was that I've noticed that you are really good at adjusting your style to a degree depending on what you're working on. And it just blows my mind that you can be so fluid in changing your style for what the story needs, which is just awesome to me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, like I said, sometimes I don't change it that much. I mean, I guess Nova would probably be the closest to my own personal style, if you will. Like, but yeah, I usually try to push it and pull the style a little bit just to better reflect the story or the audience or the mood or whatever it might be. I mean, like I'm an artist. I like to explore things. I like to like change it up and mix medias and so on and so forth. So any opportunity that I can actually, take to do that is just adds another added level or a bonus to a series I'm working on.
Yeah.
And like Hawkeye was a great example in that regard. Like I got to like shift into 3 different styles and just like allow those styles to kind of encapsulate certain elements of the story.
Speaking of your own personal style, I saw that your creator-owned webcomic Kookaburra is supposed to be relaunching sometime this year. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is way back in 2007. I started, along with a few other guys in the studio, a web initiative called Transmission X. And we all kind of created comics and, they actually quite took off very well. I mean, the readership was great and I had a large audience, but then as with, most things at the time, I was like, well, I'm not really making a lot of money on this, or actually zero money. So unfortunately, when paying work came in, my own personal projects suffered by going on the back burner. And when Tale of Sand kind of landed on my plate I started working on that book in 2011. And then just prior to that, I was doing some Marvel work, very small one-shots and that sort of thing. So, I mean, my time really became monopolized with my Marvel work, and it was just kind of like it seemed like a very natural area to kind of move into, really, at the end of the day. I mean, and unfortunately that got sidetracked. So that hadn't been updated, I think, since 2011. It was the last update, a few pages into the new year that year, or it might have been 2012 actually. No, actually, I think it was 2012. So it's a story I quite enjoyed doing. I had a great audience. I had about 150,000 people visiting on a monthly basis, and there was a clamor, and I still get questions at shows and conventions going, when you're bringing this back. And like I said earlier, and when we were chatting, it's like those are the stories that I enjoy telling the most because they're my stories. So yeah, it's definitely, I'm taking a moment after a lot of my obligations are done by early fall. I've been slowly working on things, but right now I'm still balancing contractual work and obligations to Marvel and other companies. So, but once those peter out, I'm hoping to kind of take a month or two off and just dive in wholeheartedly and actually wrap up the story so I can actually give a complete, picture of what I wanted to tell online and then collect it into a book and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
So, and then I have other ideas for other things as well. So it's just like I like to try to balance out the two, because I do enjoy doing the corporate work. But I do enjoy doing the personal work as well, obviously. So over the past few years, the corporate has really taken the precedence and like the pendulum really swung heavily in that direction. So I'm really just trying to balance it out now and kind of keep both going as effectively as I can.
I also saw that you're working on a Jane Eyre adaptation for Archaea coming out this fall.
Yeah, that's one of the other bigger projects. So while I was working on Nova, and actually back when I was finishing Hawkeye, I was also working on a 250-page graphic novel. So,
Wow.
so it's been, like I said, it's been a very busy year. So yes, I've been working with Aline Brosh McKenna, who is best known for the screenwriter on The Devil Wears Prada, and she's the showrunner on the TV series Crazy Ex-Girlfriend right now. And she kind of fell in love with the graphic novel medium years ago as someone passed her along a few books, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is wonderful!" And once again, we had a mutual friend, and she'd been asking around about potentially doing something. He'd introduced her to a few other artists that she didn't really click with. Eventually, we got introduced, and this was just shortly after Tale of Sand, to be honest with you. It took years to develop the project, and yeah, we clicked, and we had a lot of similar likes and ideologies and kind of vision for the story. So yeah, she kind of had this idea. She wanted to adapt Jane Eyre into a modern day story, which has never been done before. I mean, it's a weird story. I mean, it's a dark gothic romance, but it's also weird. Like, you know, you can't keep your crazy your crazy wife locked up in a tower in modern day New York. It's just not. It's not a thing that's allowed. So it was an interesting adaptation. So we really tried to make a unique story, anyway. So it's definitely not your classic Jane Eyre, but it is a gothic romance set in modern New York and taking the flavor of the original text and kind of manipulating it to suit a modern day setting and audience kind of thing.
That's awesome. I'm excited to check that out.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Do you have any desire to work outside of comics and other mediums, like creating original stories for TV or movies or anything like that?
Oh, hells yeah. I mean, I've worked in pretty much, you name it. I've worked in it, in the arts. I've done the storyboarding. I've done graphic design. I've done advertising. I've created like characters and, you know, brand identity for different things. And yeah, definitely. When I was younger, I used to play around with a lot of film and animation stuff. I've done some animation work. I just recently produced a short for Canada's 150th is this year, and I produced a small short along with Go Lucky Studios about Trudeau, our premier kind of thing. So it was like an animated short. So that was an interesting endeavor. But yeah, I'm always trying to push the envelope, because at the end of the day, I'm an artist, but I'm also a storyteller, and I think my storytelling skills precede my artistic skills. So it's if I can actually go and play in film, whether it's directing or designing, I mean, yeah, I definitely am not opposed to playing in other mediums. I mean, that's the joy of what I do.
Yeah.
It's like the art itself is the current outlet, but at the end of the day, it's the creativity behind that kind of takes you where you want to go, right? So
sure,
if I can tell a story in film or a painting or animation, yeah, I'm definitely up for it for sure.
Nice. So what inspires you? What do you go to re-energize your creative batteries when you're feeling drained?
Whoa, I don't think there's anything, one thing in specific. I mean, I tend to run on empty a lot, but I try to ingest as much as I can. And I mean, that goes in waves. Sometimes you're like, just don't have the time.
Right.
But whether it's like reading literature, I don't tend to read a lot of comics, to be honest with you. I tend to read a lot more in the book department, whether it's fiction or biographies, memoirs, historical texts, that sort of thing. Movies I love, whether it's, I mean, I'm a big kind of any genre of film, to be honest with you, whether it's current day, modern stuff or classic stuff. I mean, recently I got into a Buster Keaton kick, and I was like watching all his movies.
Buster Keaton's my favorite actor. So
yeah, like, he's amazing. Like the storytelling in his films is like astounding. Like, 'cause it's silent film and he was one of the guys back then who uses as few cue cards or literary cards, whatever you called them, as compared to the other directors at the time. So I mean, yeah, I'll immerse myself. I tend to go down rabbit holes very often on the internet when I'm researching things. Whether it's like I've had projects where I've taken me down old crime syndicates, for personal projects I've been working on, or I started looking into old fashion from like the 1920s, and I started buying catalogs from retail chains from that era. So I'm always trying, and then just disconnecting also is another big thing for me. I like to travel, so I like to just leave and go away for a month or two and explore a different country, see a different culture, try different foods, interact with different people, and then or even if it's just locally, just hop on my motorcycle and just ride away for a weekend and go camping with some buddies and talk stories and look at the stars. I mean, there's so many ways. I think I'm always watching people. I'm always watching things and picking up details around me. So it's a constant. I think a good artist, I think, is like a sponge. They're always just picking up something from everywhere. Whether it's a radio in the background or a book they pick up and stuff like that. So I just try to fill myself up constantly with as many things and experiences as I can, and then hopefully that feeds whatever project. Sometimes it's a very aggressive or particular choice. Like I said, going down, like if I start researching something and I start going down rabbit holes and suddenly I'm like, researching, oh God, I can't even think of the things right now, but, underground tunnels in like Turkey or something like that, just like something you're like, wow, how did I get here? This is interesting. Let's make a story about this. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, so it's a pastime. Sometimes it takes the forefront, and zero work gets done as I'm, re-energizing, which I know I will be doing soon because I'm kind of burnt out. But it all balances itself out at the end of the day, kind of.
Yeah. So in your career, you have already worked with some really awesome creators. Who are some dream collaborators that you would love to work with in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty spoiled, I'll be honest. For me, I guess it's more about the story. So I guess one of my favorites early on when I was younger was Neil Gaiman, whose body work I loved, whether it was his comic books like Sandman, or his novels as well, kind of thing. So I mean, he'd be somebody I'd probably enjoy working with. And I'm just trying to think right now, but I'm so terrible with names sometimes. I tend to blank out. Trying to think of other people's. Actually, another. I'm blanking on his name right now. He's the criminal series.
Brubaker?
Yeah, Ed Brubaker. Yeah. There's another guy whose work I've loved over the years. Jonathan Hickman is another guy as well. So I mean, there's a lot of creators out there.
Sure.
I tend to just kind of go where the flow takes me, so to speak. So I'd be definitely up for a collaboration with a lot of these creators. I mean, and at the end of the day, I'm also looking forward to collaborating. I mean, my collaboration with Jeff Loveness was kind of great because it was a mutual collaboration in the sense that we both developed the story. So I think I think it's hard to step backwards once you move forward in that direction.
Yeah.
So I do hope should something happen in the future with another writer, something together on the ground floor, and bring both of our aesthetics together, if you will.
Awesome. Well, on that same kind of note, you've already worked with a bunch of comic characters that most of us would love to work on. I mean, the X-Men, Spider-Man. Are there any characters or titles that you haven't worked on yet that you would love to write for or do art for?
I'm a bit of a B-list character fan, or even C-list. So I've long proposed. It almost happened, but it kind of went in the direction I didn't want it to go. So I kind of stepped away from the project. But I would love to do, for example, a Starjammers space opera series.
Nice.
Just pure like the nostalgic Flash Gordon-esque, Star Wars-esque stories involving the characters. So that's something I've jokingly pitched to all my editors all the time at Marvel, and they're like, "No one wants to see this."
Oh no!
And then Guardians of the Galaxy happens, and I'm like, "Hey, that has a Trina raccoon in it."
Yeah.
But I think another character fan, a favorite of mine growing up was Moon Knight. So that'll probably be one in the Marvel U that I'd love to get involved with.
Yeah.
And on the DC side of things, I've always loved Mr. Miracle and Big Barda and a lot of the new Gods, Kirby stuff. So I definitely would play in that world as well. Beyond that, I'm having a hard time thinking of anybody in particular.
Yeah. Well, I think your art would be perfect for the New Gods and Moon Knight. So, of course,
I'd love to
Smallwood.
do either of those.
Yeah, of course, Smallwood was just on Moon Knight, and his art was fantastic. And I think like yours and his art have
awesome.
similarities, and just like that otherworldliness that you can bring to the table with it sometimes.
Oh, thanks, man. No, yeah, I loved his work on that. He's a fantastic artist.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and there's probably maybe a few other characters. Like, a nice reboot of Alpha Flight would be fun because just being Canadian and just going back to the core team, or
right.
or just taking some bizarre like weird character from the Marvel histories like Angar the Screamer or something, and making a series out of him or something like that. I don't know, because I find a lot of the thing I like about the B-list and C-list characters is that you're potentially allowed to do more with these characters. Whereas if you're working on like an X-Men book or Spider-Man, and which I've been lucky to do, but you're pretty much, they're the top tier characters. They're the parameters where you can push and pull are not as great kind of thing. So, when you take someone like, hey, let me take, Chad and Hepzibah from, Starjammers, and no one cares. You know what I mean? So you can just have fun with it and go nuts and actually potentially make them into interesting characters.
Yeah, definitely so.
So, yeah.
So creators often have a discerning eye for media. What are you really excited about right now that you can recommend to us and our listeners as far as music, film, books, or so on?
What have I been ingesting? Like I said, I've been quite busy of late, so I've been kind of in the shadows with a lot of stuff.
Sure.
TV wise, I've been I just caught up on Sherlock. So that's
nice. I still
I thought it was a great series end. I mean, I'm not sure if the entire series is over, but like the last few episodes were fantastic. I just watched Flaked on Netflix as well. Book wise, I just picked up a bunch of old pulp classics. So that's probably nothing I can really recommend offhand. I tend to read a lot of crime fiction from the 40s and 50s.
Sure.
Film wise, I just enjoyed Wonder Woman. I thought it was a great flick. What else? I'm looking forward to Baby Driver.
That looks cool.
Yeah, so trying to think what else offhand. Also, Valerian. I'm a big Luc Besson fan, so I'm curious to see him come back to the fold. Like, he's done a couple of things here and there, but he kind of fell off the map for a long time.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
As a director, anyways. He was still producing stuff, but. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to those films as well. And there's probably a few other ones I'm completely blanking on. Let's see, comic wise, what am I reading now? I'm loving Outcasts from Image, and I just picked up what's it called, the Monday Murders? No.
Oh yeah, I think
by Coker and.
Yeah, I think it is called Monday Murders, isn't it? Something like that, anyways.
Something like that, yeah. I love Tom Coker's artwork, and Hickman usually is a solid scriptwriter, so I'm looking forward to reading that one.
Black Monday Murders, that's it.
Oh, Black Monday Murders, yeah. Yeah, there you go. So, what else? Offhand, I'm just kind of like, and music-wise, I just downloaded, what did I download lately? I picked up the new Black Keys, which is a great album. Nice. Not Black Keys, it was a solo album from... what's his name? Aberbach? I can't remember his name. And also the XX. But I'm all over the place with that too. I tend to pick up like modern stuff, but also tend to pick up really old classic stuff as well. So
that's cool.
I'm all over the place. I like to just ingest and see what happens, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, is there anything else that you'd like to promote or talk about that we might have missed?
No, I think we covered a lot of bases. The stuff that's upcoming. If people are interested. In any of my personal projects or the studio projects, we have mailers that are starting to go out next month, and keeping abreast with behind the scenes stuff. We have some great stuff happening with the studio, and a lot of the guys are putting out their own projects as well. So we're really excited about that. And we can easily be found, all of us actually, at theraidstudio.com. It has links to all our personal sites as well as the studio as a whole. And my own stuff, it'll all be announced through the same channel. So if there are people who are interested, just follow me on any social media, but usually Instagram's the best. That's when I keep tabs on the most. And I'll usually announce upcoming projects and endeavors, whether it's Marvel, DC, or indie stuff.
Awesome. And what's your Instagram name?
Ramón Pérez. So
okay, just at Ramón
if you can
Pérez.
spell my name, then you're good.
All right. And we'll have links to that in the show notes. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Thank you.
All right, and I'm back. My recommendation this week is the documentary Batman and Bill on Hulu. It may be available on other places, but you might have to pay specifically for it on those other places, but I know it's streaming on Hulu. It is a documentary about a man named Bill Finger who co-created Batman, but died penniless with the vast majority of Batman fans ignorant of this fact. It follows author Mark Nobleman as he fights for Bill to get credit for his amazing contribution to this world. Batman. It was so amazing, and it made me tear up at times. It was beautiful, and I recommend it for anyone that likes comics. It's fantastic. You should at least know that Bill Finger was the co-creator of Batman, and this documentary is really going to break it all down for you. It was a really awesome watch. And this documentary is really going to break it down for you. It was a really awesome watch. And that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to get into contact with us, hit us up on Twitter at read_brave, on Instagram at readbravecomics, email us contact@graphocast.com, or personally, I'd love to talk comics with you anytime on Twitter at flesheater. If you would like to support the Graphomania Podcast Network, and specifically this show, check out patreon.com/graphocast and get some extra goodies for doing so. Please remember to leave a rating and review on iTunes, and I will see you next week, true believers. Goodbye! This has been a Graphomania production. If you would like to hear more podcasts, go to graphocast.com, graphocast.com. Follow us on Twitter at Graphocast and like the Graphomania page on Facebook for news and updates.